Happy Monday, y'all. All right, so today we actually have something a little bit different going on. Instead of looking at one story or a couple stories or a topic in general, we're going to watch a video and I guess react to it. React doesn't feel like the right word. We're gonna kind of just have a discussion about it, which is why I know it kind of looks good. I know it probably looks goofy to have the headphones over the beanie, but I've been wearing the beanie all day and it's part of the look. And to hear the video, I need the headphones. So if it looks goofy, it is serving a purpose. So be a hater. All right, so some of you may or may not be familiar with Pearl Davis. She goes by Just Pearly Things on YouTube and other social medias, and she got popular about 2 years ago when she started doing her podcast in London called Just Pearly Things. And it's a typical kind of whatever podcast, fresh and fit. It's very similar to that style of podcast. And when she first started making it, I had never watched an entire episode, but I did enjoy watching some of the clips that would come out of the episode. Now, it seems to me like Pearl has gotten more and more red pill-esque in her content creation over the last couple of years, the last year, I would say especially, and she's often referred to as the female Andrew Tate. So I'm not sure about you guys, but when I hear red pill content, I think of Andrew Tate. I think of Pearl Davis, Fresh and Fit. Like, these are the types of content creators that I think of, and I view their thought process to be a very radical reaction to radical left-wing ideology, if that makes sense. And the thing that troubles me about this content is it seems to more and more be anti-woman. And what they always say is that we're not anti-women, we're pro-men. And I think that might have been true at some point. I think that, as I just said, it's very reactionary to left-wing feminism, and it's inherently the inverse of that. So, for example, I personally consider myself to be an anti-feminist. I, of course, believe that men and women should be treated equal and be afforded all of the same rights, but feminism today loses me with all of the men suck and we don't need men and all of that kind of rhetoric. Because similar to how when we look at the conversations surrounding race, you often hear people saying things such as, well, you can't be racist towards white people because they hold all of the power. Or things such as, well, black people suffered in the past, so it's time for white people to suffer now. And they use these statements almost to justify their racism. And you see the same kind of tactics in feminism towards men. For example, feminists find it to be absolutely hilarious and empowering to hear about Cardi B's history of drugging and robbing men, when that is, in fact, objectively wrong. Just because that is a woman doing it to a man does not make it okay. So with all of that in mind, and in true pendulum swing fashion, we're now seeing the rise of red pill content saying things such as women suck and we don't need women and men are better than women and so on and so forth. And now I'm not saying I don't understand how this line of thinking can come about, especially when you look at the last 5 to 7 years. As I just explained, it is a reactionary ideology. And when you look at the trends that we have seen, you saw Jordan Peterson come into prominence, and he was a very good influence for young men, and they censored him and they took him off platforms. And when there's a vacuum, something's going to fill that vacuum, and that's how you get people like Andrew Tate. And when you get rid of Andrew Tate, the next worst thing is it's just going to progressively keep getting worse, and that's where we have ended up with women suck and we don't need them. Now, I think it goes without saying, but I obviously don't agree with red pill content. My belief is that any ideology that pins men and women against each other is inherently unhealthy for society. Men and women are meant to complement each other, right? So ideologies where one is less than the other, ideologies that puts one sex down over the other, are harmful. And I guess that brings us back to Pearl, because my opinion of her had been formed based off of clips that I had seen online, which is never a good way to form an opinion of somebody. And the opinion that I had formed was not a good one. And then about a week ago, I saw that she had done a podcast with the Hodge twins. And I thought to myself, let's hear homegirl out. You know, maybe her ideas have been misconstrued or misrepresented. We know that the media has a tendency to do that sort of thing, and she deserves to have a fair shot. So I watched about 20 minutes of this podcast, and I realized that I should sit down and film my reaction, because I felt like a lot of the things that she was saying were just a little bit out there and a little wild. So I wanted to sit down and talk about it. Basically, that's pretty much what I wanted to do. So I didn't finish that interview, but I did watch a couple other interviews that she has done. And so I do feel like I have a decent idea of the baseline of her views. Now, I haven't done any research as far as, I haven't looked into them, you know, because when I was watching this video, things that kept coming to my mind were just like common sense things. And so that's basically what this video is going to be. I did look into a few of her stances. So we're just going to kind of play it by ear, watch this video, and discuss.
Pearly Things.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for making time for us. Do you like to be called Pearl, or what do you go by?
Yeah, Pearl's
Pearl?
good. Yeah.
Pearl. Okay. Pearl. You're too young to be named Pearl. I came across your videos. I think it was a reel, actually. You was in trouble, though. You was hanging out with, what was his name, Nick Fuentes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How did you get mixed up with him? You see what he did to Kanye? Kanye was talking shit about Jews about 3 weeks.
Well, what happened with him, someone asked me to have him on, and I just saw like a little clip of him, and I thought he was funny. So I was like, yeah, come on. And then I'm
didn't do your homework.
now it's been, well, I had a lot going on at the time. I was doing like 4 shows a week. Mm-hmm. And then every interview for now a year, that's like the first thing people ask me.
I've seen some things like,
okay, so I will say that is one of the things that has gotten brought up in a lot of the interviews that I've watched of hers, and I am firmly of the belief that you can have whoever you want on your show. You can talk to whoever you want, and I think that nobody should be censored and everybody should be allowed to say their opinion. So that's kind of where I stand on that. And she did get a lot of flack, and she actually apologized for having him on, which I don't think that she should have done.
He speaks a lot of truth.
Yeah.
But it's that one thing he says that like throws all that out the window.
His delivery.
Yeah.
So let it be known that one thing he says is denying the Holocaust. Okay? And there's also some questionable race stuff that he talks about, but I have not done my research on him, so I'm not going to speak too much into it. But the one thing I do know is that he denies the Holocaust. So that would be that one thing. So let's not make that seem like
I don't
it's
actually
such a small
think he's a
thing.
white supremacist. I think he's more of a provocateur.
You think so?
I don't know. I mean, they call us white supremacists.
Well, I don't know. I thought he was nice. So I don't know anything. Everyone always tries to get me to like condemn him every time.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like people always say like bad things about me. And so it's like other people could do the same thing to me.
Now you want to make marriage, you want to ban marriage? I mean, not ban marriage, divorce.
What's wrong with you? You want to ban marriage? What are you, a homosexual?
You want to ban divorce?
Yeah.
You know, I've actually recently changed my opinion on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that we should ban divorce for women because we divorce for stupid reasons, but I think men should be able to divorce because they usually divorce for good reasons.
Oh, men do?
Okay, so we're going to let her talk more about this, but this is where we're starting to get into the things that she says that I think my stance on Pearl is that she's intentionally provocative and she says things to fan the flames and get a reaction. And I think this is an example of her doing that. Because this is such a generalized statement. You can't speak in broad generalizations like this. I mean, not every woman leaves for dumb reasons, and sometimes men leave for dumb reasons, you know, like not every man, it's just too broad. So, no. Let's go.
Couldn't agree with you more.
It's usually like a nagging fat wife, and the woman just wants to eat, pray, love it. So,
right.
Yeah, I came to this conclusion after I interviewed 1,000 women.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, is a nagging fat wife a good reason for a divorce? Because that's what she just said, right? And again, I come back to intentionally provocative. Intentionally provocative. Nagging your husband and being fat are not good reasons for him divorcing you.
Changed my point of view a lot, to be honest, because I would hear like why relationships ended for men and for women, and the men would be like, well, she was like hitting me and I had to like, it would be like a serious thing, and the women would be like, I just outgrew him. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
How do you outgrow
that could mean anything.
Yeah. So you want to ban it for women?
Yeah.
All right, I got a scenario for you.
Okay.
Let's say we're married.
Okay.
You caught me banging a bunch of right? Transgender. Yeah, that's what I said.
You said training.
You catch me banging a trans. We're married, right?
Do you do that?
No. I'm just saying.
Just a hypothetical.
Why did you think of that?
I just wanted to put you on the spot. And I got AIDS. I got AIDS.
I'm
asking, should you be able to get a divorce?
Wow. Of all the, well, then don't I have AIDS if you have AIDS?
Well, it's a cure now. Look at Magic Johnson.
It's like,
Together.
yeah.
Okay, so I am going to skip through some parts because some of this interview is just stupid. And it is also an hour and 15 minutes long. So we're going to be skipping through some of it. So if you see jump cuts, that's why. Because there are just certain parts in this where there's no serious discussion happening. So
I've been raised
between a man and woman.
It's between man and woman. But then you got two females, two men want to get married now. And I'm like, why do you even want to call it a marriage? Because, being married has always been a religious sacrament. Now you just want to hijack some forms of Christianity or religion and use it for your own purpose. Even though you don't believe in religion, but all of a sudden you want to be married? Doesn't make sense.
Do you think, it's not really a religious sacrament anymore. We're kind of in a post-marriage world when you think about it. It doesn't really exist. Like, how can it exist if the average marriage is 8 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been married for 27 years.
Okay, so I think she gets more into this throughout the podcast, but so one thing is there are things that I do agree with her on. Her diagnosis of the state of marriage in America is 100% correct. However, her prescription to that is where things kind of go off the rail. So we're going to let her put it in her own words, but...
It's been a while.
Yeah. First marriage.
I'm happy for you guys.
Yeah.
But, it's becoming the exception. It's not really the rule.
Yeah.
And even gray divorce is increasing now. That's like a new...
And objective, and you supported all your arguments. And it was like these women were talking, and I like looking at you in the background while they were talking. I could just see you like, you stupid bitch. I could like see it. And I was getting so frustrated for you because I was like, how is she staying so calm around all these crazy women?
I'm used to it.
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
Yeah. Do you find that's true for a majority of women?
Yeah.
That mindset?
Well, I think under the age of maybe like 35, there's an increase in narcissism because we had access to social media. So I just think there's a lot of like narcissistic women.
I think that's true. Absolutely. I think it's also true for men. I think that there is a general increase in narcissism. And this is something that I have picked up on. And it's not, I don't want to say it's just Pearl because it's red pill content in general, where instead of where you see in feminism where they are constantly picking on men and men are to blame for everything and men are the problem, it's the exact inverse with red pill. It's women to blame for everything. Women are the problem. Men are wonderful, sent from God. And yeah, you're just going to continue to see it.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I found women, my relationships, women can be pretty damn evil.
Oh, yeah. I think women are evil in general.
Yeah, I know men are evil, but I think, don't get me wrong, men...
Sorry, we're stopping again. Provocative. I'm so curious if this is something that she genuinely believes, because it is the exact equivalent of saying, yeah, I believe men are just pigs in general. Like there's good men and there are good women.
They're not evil, but women, man, they take evil to a whole nother level. Like I had a girl tell me she was pregnant when she wasn't. I had a girl went to child support on me, right?
Well, your ex?
Child support, my ex. Even though I was paying her and I was paying the receipts and everything, I show up to work one day and I got this envelope. It says confidential. It says my name on it. I said, well, I'm not opening that shit. So I eventually get around to it. They're going to suspend my license. Child support was like around, I think they said it was like 60 some odd thousand with penalties and everything. Even though I've been supporting her the whole time, we have been living together off and on.
Yeah.
They just go behind your back and it's just, and then you remember the whole Lorena Bobbitt thing where she chopped a dude's mushroom tip off.
Oh, yeah.
And women actually laughed about that.
Yeah, Miss Sandry is accepted
Yeah.
in society. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, now that's a totally fair point. It is generally more acceptable for women to be abusive or be cruel towards men. It's like the Cardi B example. That's absolutely, absolutely true. The solution to that isn't to now make it acceptable for men to be cruel and evil to women. That's not the solution here. It's not eye for an eye.
I could only imagine if a dude just chopped off a woman's tits, and if
No.
guys laughed about that, they would be like,
Yeah.
cancel it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Well,
And they should.
I don't know. I think all evil kind of comes from women when I realized all the world's problems come from women.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she's serious. We're going to let her explain, but provocative, intentionally.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not the man's fault, it's the woman's fault for driving them crazy.
Seriously. No, because I looked at like criminal stats and they're all from single mother homes. I don't even think
I don't know if she gets into this, but is the man not to blame for leaving? Just curious where the blame is for daddy for not coming home from getting milk. Just curious.
women are more nurturing. We're more likely to kill infants and the elderly. Like when men kill, they
Okay, this is a point. She makes this point a lot, that women are more likely to kill infants and the elderly. And that might be because women are statistically 75% of elderly caretakers in the U.S. are women. And within the first year of an infant's life, which is what she's referring to, it is most likely going to be the mother to kill the baby because the mother's the one spending the most time with the baby. So you're not saying anything. You're not saying anything to say that the people who are spending the most time together are the people who are going to be most likely to be responsible for the death of that person. I mean, when you get married, your partner's the person who's most likely to murder you because you spend the most time with your husband or your wife. It's the logical conclusion, but she never mentions that. All she says is that women are most likely to murder their babies and murder the elderly, to paint this picture that is completely inaccurate. And it's lacks that third variable of the fact that women are the most likely to be spending time with these demographics because they're more nurturing. Men aren't most likely to be taking care of infants, and men are not most likely to be taking care of the elderly because they are not the nurturing out of the two. But that does not get discussed for Miss Pearl. Continuing on.
kill for a reason. It's like, disrespect or whatever. I'm not saying it's like a good reason.
Right, yeah.
But I mean, women, it's like when women get power, they're just evil with it.
Mm-hmm.
Women are terrible when they get power. Even queens, the last 500 years, they like looked at who was more violent, men or women, and women are more likely to wage war.
Like, I think a good representation of that, what you just said, is like a female police officer. They're
Man,
like the
I
worst.
cringe when I get pulled over by a cop. I see a female come up to me.
Yeah.
I cringe. I hope it's a white guy coming to the car. I'm afraid to see a black guy come up.
So again, I do agree that there is an issue. I think that women officers are probably more likely to be violent, but I don't think that it comes from the place that Pearl is saying. Pearl is saying it's because we're inherently evil. I think that it comes from a place of we're inherently weaker. We're not as strong as men are, and so when we are in dangerous situations like that, we feel less capable of protecting ourselves, and so it's it's a riskier situation for every single person involved. That's why lowering police standards, lowering standards for the military, which they do for women, is incredibly dangerous. It's dangerous for everybody because those women are not capable of being in those positions. Now, if a woman is able to pass and meet the same standards as the men do who are on that team, I don't have a problem with that, but they need to be meeting the exact same standards. So,
female.
Again, she's noticing a correct problem, but her prescription of that problem is so radical.
Because that black guy, he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got something to prove to the white guys. And then a white woman is just power tripping.
Yeah.
Every time I've got a female police officer.
Again, and I just want to clarify this because I don't know if I clarified it very well. I don't think it's a power trip. I think it's an inherent feeling that you're unsafe. And that's probably going to piss people off, but
It's just been crazy. Get out of the car, spread them water. They're very,
I don't think
yeah.
they shouldn't have female police officers. It's just like, why? It's like the Special Olympics. Like, get out of here. It's like that's what I think of when women are in like those roles. They're like treating them seriously, but they can't do the same job.
They can't.
Do you think women, I mean, I agree with you. There are some women in some occupations shouldn't be, performing. Like, how about leadership roles like CEOs, things like that? Leadership.
I mean, I'd rather not. There's like exceptions, but I just don't think we're better in it, in my opinion.
Like, I seen the black mayors, the one in Chicago and the one in New York. And
I'd rather have a woman.
and they bring up the fact that they're black and they make the job tough on them, or they're criticized more because they're black. I think whenever you come from a marginalized group, such as being black or a woman, that kills you. When you do get the position, it kills you because you've been indoctrinated to think a certain way. And I think it hurts them from a leadership standpoint. And it just
Especially when it comes to a woman, because they've been told they only make about 80 cents on the dollar.
Have you seen?
We're not even going to get into that because I'm assuming we all know that the wage gap is false. There's too many variables that go unaccounted, and we chalk it up to this 20-cent difference. I do like what they were just saying, though, about people who come from marginalized groups that can destroy them when they do get to positions of power. I would like to make a distinction, though, because there's people who come from marginalized groups who, when they get into positions of power, let's look at Mayor Adams, for example, because that's somebody that he showed. Yes, that is going to destroy him because he has a victim mentality. And when you have a victim mentality, then that's going to be your legacy versus somebody who doesn't. Let's Thomas Sowell, for example. He got to where he is because of his intellect, his capabilities, and he knows that. He knows that he didn't get where he is because he is black. And if you think that you got a position because of your minority status, then you're going to be incredibly threatened at the thought of losing it because you don't feel like you got it because you deserved it. So that's all I have to say about that.
That job listing where a fireman is paid between 15 to 18 an hour, and so is a diversity and inclusion intern.
Wow.
I think
so. That's just wild. Totally not related to Pearl, but what she just brought up is that firefighters are paid similarly to DEI hires, and that is
men are underpaid. I think women are overpaid. I think women just have like useless jobs.
Yeah.
Generally. Look at what happens when women take over an industry. Education, what happened? IQ. It used to be a mostly male industry in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Then women took over. I mean, IQs have been dropping for 50 years, 75 years.
Yeah. Well, Keith, you know how I feel about women and voting.
okay. So that's something that I didn't look into very much. I would agree that the education system is in a free fall, and that we are producing dumber and dumber generations. I'm not going to say that women do not have a role to play in that. If you look at who is pushing legislatively for programs such as DEI, it is women. It is female voters. So I do think that there is a conversation to be had there. Now, I don't necessarily think that there aren't women who could do the job, but I don't necessarily think that is an entirely false premise.
She feels the same way, I think.
Yeah,
I should have brought you guys T-shirts.
Yeah, I saw your T-shirt on your
forgot.
Instagram. Yeah.
So you don't think women should vote?
No, I started looking at the early suffragettes, like their writings. So it was like there was the suffragettes and the anti-suffragettes. And like I always heard in conservatism, even from the right, that like first wave feminism was good. And, you know, the more I looked into it, they kind of warned about what was going to happen because the anti-suffragettes was like a group of wives and mothers that were against women voting. And they said if women get the right to vote, taxes are going to increase. There's going to be more government regulation. And this is going to be the breakdown of the family. And they compared it to communism because instead of policies that were pushing families, it was individualistic. And basically everything they said that would happen happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was looking at some.
Oh, wait, so that's not something that I looked into before filming this video. So that's something that I'd be interested to look into. But like the education thing, I think that that's a sound argument. You know, I don't think that that's intentionally inflammatory. I think that that's just an observation. Now, I have heard her say before, she has said that she wouldn't, you know, campaign for women to not be able to vote. I just think that she's making an observation that we are taught that in the suffrage movement, there were a lot of women actually who were not in favor of it, which does make sense. It does. It really does. If you look at politics, nothing new is under the sun, right? So if women are on different sides of the aisle today, then I'm sure they were then too. And so again, I don't necessarily think that there's anything wrong with what she said here. Obviously, women are going to continue to vote. I did hear her say in another interview talking about how it would be beneficial for her as a conservative if women stopped voting because just statistically, our country would become more conservative because on average, men are more conservative. And that kind of made me laugh because it's, you know, true. But obviously, women are not going to lose the right to vote. So get your panties out a wad.
Some of the polls and some of the vote rankings, like when last election for Biden, and I seen the statistics on females voting liberal.
Oh yeah,
it's like overwhelmingly liberal.
It's like the black vote for Democrats. Yeah, I think if you ban African Americans and women from voting, this place would be a great place.
So not only should we ban women, we got to get the Negroes.
Well, okay. If they just switched it to net taxpayers,
Yeah.
I mean, that would solve a lot of. I also think if women are on like alimony.
See, that's something that I also agree with is I think that the way that voting happens needs to be reworked, especially with the influx that we have been having across the border. I think that there should be some kind of civics test at a bare minimum. Some kind of, you have to be paying taxes, I think would be a good standard, because if you're someone who's not paying any taxes and you're just living off the government teat, then you're not going to have any motivation to vote against policies that continue to feed you. So, and in turn, you're not going to have any motivation to start providing for yourself, and it's a vicious cycle. So I think that there is room to discuss reform in the way that voting works. I think that that's a discussion that can be had. And again, I don't think that she's very for real when she talks about women not voting as far as like an actual policy prescription. And that's why I don't take that one very seriously, because there's other things that she says where she's very serious about them and she firmly believes them. That's just not one of them, I don't think, from what I've gathered. So I'm not taking it as seriously as other things.
Support or any of that, they shouldn't be able to vote. Let him vote. He's paying for your lifestyle.
Right.
I don't ever get married. My parents have been married 30 years. So I was kind of just like, why do people not want to get married? And I just started going down the rabbit hole where the laws favor women, and women get alimony 90% of the time. They get child custody 90% of the time. And I couldn't, it seems like basic that you should have 50-50 custody off the bat.
Right.
Unless it's 50% his DNA. Why doesn't he get 50% custody?
Yeah, unless he's banging trans or something. Yeah.
And I started interviewing politicians and men's rights activists. They've been around for 50 years. So why haven't they been able to accomplish anything? Well, because politicians need the female vote, and it's career suicide.
Right.
So why is it fair that men pay all the taxes, they do all of the hard jobs, and yet women have more of a say on really the most important thing, which is children?
Yeah.
I
kind of noticed you mentioned that on Vice. It's like women only want to take advantage of the system. Like you don't see like a lot of women doing like tough jobs like construction or
They all want to be CEOs, but they don't want to earn it. They don't want to do the tough and gritty jobs. Yeah.
It's like 90% plus in all the hard jobs, men.
Yeah.
Like infrastructure jobs.
Yeah.
Basically. And they'll still count a woman if she's like waving a flag on construction. Like, how does that count? I don't think women are more nurturing. I really don't. Because there's no evidence that says they are.
Yeah.
We're more likely to kill the elderly.
It's just a talk.
Okay, so here we are going again with the more likely to kill the elderly, more likely to kill infants, and we already discussed this. She says that there's no evidence to prove that women are more nurturing, and I think she kind of gets into that. I don't remember. I might be thinking of a different interview, but I would beg to differ. I think that there's no evidence to show that men are more nurturing than women are. I mean, I actually think that her own point of being more likely to kill the elderly, as we discussed earlier, is because women are more likely to be taking care of the elderly. They make up 75% of caretakers in the U.S. And is that not a data point? Is that not... And this is where I'm saying, like, it seems to me like she cherry picks and she presents things in a very specific way. And I've watched her in other interviews, and she has a way of dodging these types of points. And she has a very specific story that she wants to tell. And that story is inherently anti-women, inherently. And she says that she's not, but this is the third or fourth 30 to an hour long podcast I've watched of hers, and she makes these same points in every single one. Sooner or later, you got to start believing people when they tell you who they are.
Even mean this. I was trying to think of one thing that women were better at. And so what I would do is people would give me stuff and I would just start Googling like stats to see if I could find stuff to back it up. I was like, guys, we have to be better at something.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything.
I think women are better at yoga. That shit's hard.
No, okay. Hear me out.
So she talks about this one again a lot, and this is one of the biggest ones where I feel she's just intentionally trying to be provocative. And it's just not true. I mean, women are more empathetic, which for sure could be used as a detriment. I mean, I think that could even tie into the downfall of the education system, to be honest with you. But it's also an incredibly important societal component. We cannot get on as a society without a certain level of empathy, and women provide that. We provide nurture, despite her claim to fame that women are more likely to kill infants and babies. It's because we're also more likely to be taking care of them. We are inherently more nurturing. We are better homemakers. We are better at having children, obviously, and raising them. Now, if you look at IQs and intelligence, like on the far end of the spectrums, the smartest man is always smarter than the smartest woman, and the dumbest man is always dumber than the dumbest woman. Women tend to stay more in the center, and men tend to be more extreme. And I think that's why for the data she's looking up, would be getting those results. But that's discounting things that I said, things that are more emotionally bent, which is a very important component for society. And there's an interview that she did with Andrew Clavin where they debate marriage, and he makes a good point saying, because makes this point that women are essentially, we don't need them, essentially. That's not what she says, but that's the essence of what she is saying. And Andrew makes this point of how come the most successful men in the world in their speeches that they give thank their wives first. They always acknowledge that they couldn't have gotten where they are without their wife. It is because women are, and there's going to be people who get mad at this because it's the traditional structure, but women are holding down the fort at home that men are able to go and do incredible things. Now, that's not what always happens. Sometimes it's women going out and doing incredible things, of course, but she chalks it up like women just do not contribute anything. And when they do contribute, it's detrimental to the society. And she does this consistently and in numerous interviews, and it just kind of blows my mind.
I bet you if there was money and a top 10 yoga people, there was a guy that would figure out how to do it better.
Yeah, destroy it.
Yeah, he would probably transition into a woman.
I looked up because they were like cooking. I'm like, guys, come on, we have cooking, right?
Right.
Top Michelin chefs, man.
Yeah.
I think this comes back to the extremes thing that I was saying. Women are less likely to try and become a chef. Doesn't mean that they don't necessarily have the innate ability to do so. They're just less likely to go out and do it. So I just...
I'm like, okay, nurturing, right?
Yeah.
We raise better kids, right?
Yeah.
Single mother versus single father homes, men.
Yeah.
Okay, we're better with the babies.
Okay, so this is a point that she brings up a lot, is that children brought up by single fathers fare better than single mothers, but what she doesn't bring up is the age differential. Children under the age of 8 fare better with their mother by a long shot. Over the age of 8, they are more independent and can then succeed better with their father. But there is an age differential there in which the woman is more beneficial for that child, and she does not bring that up. I think I've heard her discuss it one time, and it's because the person who is interviewing her brought it up. So again, we find provocation and intentional misrepresentation of data, and it just comes across as very insincere.
We don't 1 out of 3 women's had an abortion.
Yeah.
We kill the elderly.
Yeah.
It's like...
So, yeah, women just a bunch of savages.
Yeah, and I don't even mean this. I don't even mean this to hate on women. I just couldn't... I just couldn't find anything we were better
You're just
at.
looking for something. I think women are inferior by any stretch of the imagination. I think they're very intelligent, like you, very quick, very witty. But women nowadays, they'd rather be a victim than someone that can actually spread knowledge and bring everybody together. It's just, I don't know what the hell happened to our society over the last 2 decades. It's just everybody wants to be a victim. Everybody wants to complain. Nobody wants to do anything about anything, you know?
Yeah, but even me, it's like if I look at the male commentators, they're usually better. Like, you know? You know, it's like, I just think.
I want to know what metric she is using to come to that conclusion. I mean, if I looked at Candace Owens, I mean, she's incredibly smart. Amala Ekanobi, Brett Cooper, these women are very, very, very smart. I definitely think that they could stand water to their male counterparts. I sincerely want to know what metric she is using. And also comment down below how you guys feel about what Pearl is saying, because to me, my main problem is she's not necessarily wrong about observing problems, but the conclusion or the solution that she comes to for those problems tends to be so radically anti-women, and she uses it, and she's just so derogatory towards even herself. Just now she said, I'm not even close to being as good as my male counterpart, and I just don't know that that's true. And I think, and one of the crazy things to me about like this and this side of the red pill content is when I would say moderate conservatives like myself react to it and talk about it, we end up sounding like damn feminists because I'm sitting here having to defend women like a feminist would, which is absolutely insane. But it is because they have taken such a radical right-wing position of women are the root of all evil. I mean, she actually said that at the beginning of this podcast.
Good. I don't know. I think all evil kind of comes from women when I realized all the world's problems come from women.
So it just is not helpful. It's not helpful, and it's also not true. So
guys are better at stuff. Women, education is female, centric. I think 80% of teachers are women. So
they even threw trans women in there. I find it astonishing.
You know what's funny? I'm going to tell you a funny thing. Even the trans issue, they make it about women. When it's actually more men become women than women become, more, it's 80% of trans people are actually women becoming men.
Okay, so what she is saying there, that took me a second. The trans thing, whenever you start saying, oh, trans women, and it takes me a second. It takes me a second to process what the fuck you're saying. So what she is saying is that women have made the trans issue about themselves when in fact it's actually more women are becoming men, so it's actually a men's issue. You know that we talk about this issue a lot on this channel. I don't even think that I need to go into it, but we will. Maybe that's because, Pearl, men's spaces are in no way, shape, or form threatened or affected by women becoming men. However, when you have men becoming women, you start having women losing medals, accolades, prize money, safety, security, you name it, we're losing it. So I wouldn't necessarily say that that's us playing the victim or making it about us. I would just say that that is the facts on the ground, Miss Girl. So that was a crazy thing to say. That was a crazy thing to say.
Right. But all we hear about is the swimmer.
Yeah.
Okay, again, because the swimmer, name one woman who became a man who stole an accolade from a man. That's what I thought.
I didn't know that. Because no woman, they say they transition, but they never really transition. Their wardrobe changed, but they never changed. But you don't see any woman, becoming a man per se and dominating anything.
That's men and the men. Yeah. You never see that shit. Could you imagine that? A woman going in the NBA?
Yeah.
Or playing football?
Oh, she's dead.
Well, even like women invade male-only spaces all the time. Where do you have male-only spaces, really?
Right.
Bruh.
Bathrooms, locker rooms, the same places that women are saying these are women-only spaces. Be so for real.
Right.
They have writings from the 1900s of men complaining about this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Backs that up.
30 high IQ. For every 30 high IQ men, there's one high IQ woman.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Really? I didn't know that.
Well, that comes back to what we were saying about the extremes. So we talked about that already.
Yeah, and
I came
You're
across
supposed to know that. You're a man.
I came across a study. Some woman was sharing and said, on average, women's IQs are higher than men.
No, I think they just make that up.
They just made it up.
Well, okay, this is...
These sorry ass bitches.
I think, because the whole education system became more feminized because they added things like attendance to boost your grades or like essays. It used to just be you take a standardized test, yes or no. And so it became more catered towards things that women are good at. I think that they do the same thing with IQ tests.
Well, okay, so that's an interesting point. She says catered to things that women are good at, and an example she gave was writing essays versus like a standardized yes or no or ABC kind of test. I think that that's just diversifying the types of intelligence. And I think that people hear that and don't like that. I almost hear that and don't like that. But it actually kind of ties into the IQ thing because they have changed the way that IQs work. There's like the traditional IQ where it's very like spatial orientation and things of that nature, but then there's also emotional IQs and things like that. And Pearl would see something like that and say that that's been catered to women, and that might be the case. But emotional intelligence is also an important thing. It comes back to what we were talking about women being empathetic and how the ability to read emotion and communicate emotion is a very important societal component. We need to, it's one of the foundational ways in which we communicate with each other. We can't communicate with each other if I can't judge how it is that you are feeling or see your reactions to things. That's part of the thing. That's part of what makes communication possible. So there could be an argument to be made that we're making education easier, and I could see that. I think that there's also an argument to be made that adding different types of intelligence into tests and the IQ tests is also beneficial. I think about a kid who might not fare well on a traditional IQ test, but might fare well on an emotional IQ test. And I'm going to sound like such a damn liberal right now, but facts are facts. And getting a good test result could boost internal morale enough for that student to have the confidence to do something good or contribute something to society. So I don't necessarily, I guess my stance would be, as long as we're not taking away from the fundamental things that we need to be teaching in school, I don't see anything wrong with adding various tests. I'm not saying changing the curriculum or adding wacky-dacky stuff like DEI or critical race theory to the curriculum, but as long as we're still doing the standardized testing and making sure that they're passing that, I don't see anything wrong with also saying, here's an essay test, or if we're doing the IQ test, also saying, well, here's an emotional IQ test. I don't see anything wrong with adding various types of tests as long as we are ensuring that they are passing the baseline kind of tests. Does that make sense? I think I ranted for a long time. I don't know if that actually made sense, but again, I see her noticing a problem and prescribing it wrong.
That's opinion. That's not fact, but that's my thing.
And it seems like all this stuff that's going wrong with society is all because of Democrats.
Women.
Liberal.
Women.
Yeah. Women. Yeah. Yeah. Even conservative women get a little liberal on your way. Yeah, look at, what's it, Nikki Haley? Mm-hmm. But that was a lot of Democrat women.
Are we really going to sit here and pretend that Nikki Haley is a conservative Republican? Are we going to do that right now? Please.
Yeah, I very seriously doubt she's any type of conservative. The shit comes out of her mouth.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But that's how she's even where she is now, because of women voters and because she's a woman.
Yeah, well, how are they winning, women?
Yeah.
Like they just show a video of some abortion and women run to the polls. They're like, you won't be able to kill your kids.
That's true. See, this comes back to when we were talking about the voting thing earlier, and I said she's not wrong, you know.
The women are like, no.
I find that amazing.
When they look at inventions, it's roughly men are 80% of inventions, and then 150 years of Nobel Peace Prize, 0 all-women teams.
Yeah. Wow.
0. And only out of the 150, I think 19 are co-ed. So men even.
Y'all are going to get
so I don't know. These are
me
just
say this. I might skip forward because it's starting to get repetitive. Again, the extremes of the bell curve. That's the word I've been looking for. Bell curve is the smartest of the smart are going to be men. The dumbest of the dumb, though, are also going to be men. So, yeah. We are going to skip forward because we're only about halfway through this video. I'm not sure. And we've already touched on most of the things that I wanted to talk about, which were things that I got from the 3 other podcasts that I watched of hers. So I don't know that we're going to necessarily get into anything new here.
Like when a woman cheats, why do you think she cheats?
I think that what I see typically is that women will date the men they actually like between the ages of like 20 to 28, roughly. Then they want to get married, whatever. So they date a guy they're not actually attracted to. They don't actually like. They just want a kid. They get the kid. They stop sleeping with the husband. Usually it's like after the second kid. And then they cheat with the personal trainer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I bet my
So
wife get
again,
fucked.
like I just feel like that's a really wild take. So the question being, why do women cheat? Again, I think she's identifying a problem. Problem being a husband and a wife have a couple of kids and then one of them cheats. Okay, let's make it that broad because I think that's about as much as she got right. Her analysis of this is weird to me. Am I okay? Again, I don't know if I'm just like ignorant about this. Maybe she knows something I don't. But I'm sure that there are women out there who got married just to have a kid. I'm sure that there are. But again, here we are making a broad generalized statement. But also, I think more likely is that the married couple had a kid and babies change your life. Okay, you're going to get very busy. You're not going to have much time. And then you have a second kid. That's going to happen tenfold. And if you're not being very intentional and going on dates and making time for your significant other, they're going to stop feeling like your significant other. They're going to start feeling like a roommate. They're going to start feeling like a co-parent. They're not going to feel like anything intimate to you. Why are you going to want to have sex with somebody who isn't anyone of any level of intimacy to you? And so that when I hear that scenario, that's where my mind goes and how I process that. But Pearl hears that scenario or makes that scenario up, and it's just because women are cruel. And again, it's just this is another situation where there's equal blame. Like, where is the blame on the husband for not making an effort?
And women do that. They get fat after they get their kids or whatever.
Yeah.
That's why I say women. I'm like, we just have the tendency to act up. That's why the men should be able to divorce. If he's in a sexless marriage, she's fat. Well, what is he gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay, so this takes us back to the beginning. So to her, it's frivolous to divorce because to say I outgrew him, which it is. That's absolutely frivolous. But it's not frivolous because your wife got fat and won't have sex with you. That still feels frivolous to me. That feels like a scenario where there needs to be some communication and there needs to be some effort. And I come back to, why is this a sexless marriage? Are you guys making time for each other? Are you going on a date? Are you still romanticizing your relationship? And so that feels kind of frivolous to me, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's really no difference.
Yeah. Like, it's a red flag for me if we go like 8 days without having sex. Something's up. And more often than not, it's her initiating the encounter. So for a woman just to turn her back on you not having sex, that's a red flag.
Well, she doesn't like him. I mean, because women marry men they don't like all the time to get a kid.
Because they have benefits, a good job.
And it's funny because you'll hear a lot of, especially like trad cons, like admit to it. I'm like, why are you bragging about begging your wife to marry you? That's like not a flex. Like, why, like she should be.
I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that. I don't think that you should marry somebody for any reason other than you love them and want to spend your life with them. Because anything other than that is going to fall short when life hits and when life gets hard. So I would absolutely agree with that.
Be begging to, like, she should be dying to marry you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the trends and patterns I see anyways.
What do you think society would be at 30 years from now?
Oh, I think you're going to see an explosion of hookers. I think it's going to be crazy. Right now, there's more OnlyFans or cam workers than teachers. Think about that.
That's probably true.
And that doesn't even include women that, you know, use Instagram for sex work. I think it's going to be normal. I think like when I have kids, they're going to be raised with like other kids that their parents have like OnlyFans, sex work, that sort of thing. You're already seeing like men wife them up of more women. Because think about it. 50% of women between the ages of 25 and 45 will be single and childless. What
Also
does a world
probably
like
true.
that look like?
That's actually a really great question. And I think that we're already starting to see the consequences of this. And I think this actually ties into the education system part a little bit, because when women don't have children of their own, they start looking for other things around to nurture, which I think kind of goes into women being more nurturing than men, but we're not going to get back into that. And so you start seeing these teachers treating their children, their school children that they are teaching as their like children, and because they don't have any of their own. And that's when you start getting the, oh, you can talk to me about your gender, and oh, you can talk to me about this, and we don't have to tell your parents. And this over comfortability comes from that nurturing behavior, which is, not good. And so the question that she posed of what does a world like that look like with all of these childrenless women, not good, because you're going to start misplacing that nurturing behavior in places where it should not be.
Women are more physically picky than men now, because men find like 50% of women attractive. Women find 80% of men as ugly.
Really?
They
That
found
doesn't
80%
surprise me
not
at all.
unattractive, not okay, just ugly.
Yeah. Y'all find more women, they rather sleep with a woman than a man nowadays. It's more common. You see these people in relationships, women dating women, and it's more common that they find men revolting.
I find that women do that when
I wonder what ideology did that. I wonder what ideology did that to women. And we're closing this video out. We're getting towards the end here. But this is a good stopping point, I think, because it brings it very full circle. At the top of the episode, I talked about how it is modern day feminism that bred the red pill content. And that's exactly what they're saying here. So you had this ideology that has taught women to hate men. And so you're getting statistics like this where 80% of women find 80% of men to be ugly and revolting and don't want anything to do with them because they've been indoctrinated by this ideology. So now in turn, you're seeing men react to that. And that's where you're getting people like Andrew Tate. That's where you're getting people like Pearl Davis. And I said it at the top of the episode, I'm going to close out the episode with the same sentiment. It's not healthy. It's bad for our society. Ideologies that put men and women against each other instead of together is going to be destructive at the end of the day. There's no world in which that works. We are meant to live together in harmony, and that's just not what's happening. And so let me know if you guys are interested in doing videos like this. I've never done anything like this before, so I think I underestimated how intimidating of a task it is to sit here and watch an hour and 15 long podcast without doing something else, because usually when I'm listening to my podcast, I'm cleaning or working or doing something. So if you want me to do something like this again, let me know. It doesn't have to be about a person. It can just be a video in general or anything like that, because I do love this style of video. Getting to just chit chat about something is very fun. I love to chit chat. So with that, we are going to close out the episode. I appreciate you guys hanging out. If you've made it this far, thank you a lot. Wherever you are watching, please do the thing that you are supposed to do to help me out. If you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. If you are on Spotify, then leave me a review. Follow me over there. All of my social medias are down below as always. Make sure that you are following me on all of those, because I am starting to get back into the groove of posting over there more political content again as well. So you don't want to miss anything. And so I will chat with you guys all next Monday. I hope that you guys have a wonderful week. Bye.